Okay, let's travel back to 9th century China, where a love story was written with this incredible puzzle right at its heart. It's called The Tale of Yingyīng, and for more than 1,000 years, its ending has just completely baffled readers. Today, we're going to solve it. So, this is the big mystery, right? The author, he creates this modern, sympathetic, totally passionate heroine, only to turn around and condemn her in the final paragraphs as this dangerous, corrupting force. I mean, it's a contradiction that makes absolutely no sense on the surface. But, and this is the key, understanding why he did it, that's how we unlock the entire story.
All right, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get into what made this story such a game changer. Then we'll look at the new storytelling tricks it used and the main conflict. After that, we're going to solve the puzzle of that totally bizarre ending. And finally, we'll see how the story took on a life of its own.
All right, first up, let's set the scene. So, we're in China's Tang Dynasty. Think of it as a golden age for art, poetry, culture, just a massive creative explosion. And right in the middle of all this, a whole new kind of fiction was starting to bubble up. You know, before this tale came along, most stories were about things like ghosts or supernatural events or really simple fables with a clear-cut moral. The Tale of Yingyīng was totally different. It was one of the first major works to really dive into the messy, complicated, and super realistic psychology of its characters. It grounded its drama in the real social world of its time. And look, this wasn't just about a change in theme. The author, Zhuàn, he was actually pioneering new ways to tell a story, techniques that would really bring Chinese fiction into its own. This table really shows you what an incredible leap forward this was. I mean, fiction went from these simple stories about the supernatural to complex psychological drama. Characters went from being flat, having just one single trait, to being round, complex people full of contradictions who could actually surprise you. And the writing itself got so much richer, blending different forms all together. And get this, Yīngyīng did all this in a totally revolutionary way. He didn't just tell us the characters were in love or in pain, he showed us, through their own words. By weaving their personal letters and poems right into the story, he explored their inner worlds with a depth that was just completely new. He created characters who felt real precisely because they were capable of surprising you. And right at the heart of all this innovation is our heroine, Yīngyīng. She is not your typical damsel in distress or a simple villain, no way. She's smart, she's driven by her passions, she follows the rules one minute and then completely breaks them the next. She is the engine of the story and, the source of its central puzzle. Okay, so all of this incredible psychological depth, it's all there to serve one central theme, the huge clash between personal passion and your social position. Just look at this comparison. It perfectly lays out the impossible choice that the main guy, a scholar named Zhang, is facing. On one side, you've got everything personal, love, passion, intimacy. And on the other side, the immense weight of social duty, his career, his status, and the need for a respectable marriage to get ahead. See, for an ambitious scholar back in the Tang Dynasty, everything, and I mean everything, revolved around passing the big civil service exams and landing a powerful job. A marriage wasn't really about love, it was a strategic move, an alliance. So when Zhang ultimately decides to abandon Yīngyīng, it wasn't just seen as a personal failing. In his world, it was framed as a practical, almost necessary choice. Okay, which brings us right back to that baffling ending. We've got this deeply sympathetic character, this tragic, socially driven conflict, so why on earth does the author suddenly turn around and condemn his own creation? I mean, it is such a jarring shift. For almost the entire story, we're led to feel for Yīngyīng and her tragic situation. And then bam, the narrator, speaking as the scholar Zhang, just pulls the rug out from under us and denounces her in the harshest possible way. And the specific term he uses for her, it translates to evil influence. Now, this wasn't just, a mild criticism. This was a serious accusation. It painted her as a dangerous, almost demonic force that corrupts men, a label that is completely at odds with the intelligent, passionate character we've spent the whole story getting to know. Okay, so here's the solution. The crucial point is that this ending wasn't an artistic mistake. It was a calculated move. Let's walk through the author's likely thought process. Step 1. He writes this brilliant, emotionally powerful story about forbidden love. Step 2, in doing so, he's exploring really risky themes for his time, like a woman acting on her own desires. But step 3, to get away with it, he has to slap a harsh moral on at the very end to condemn her. Why? Step 4, to protect his own reputation as a high-ranking government official. Basically, that shocking ending was all about social and political self-preservation. You can think of it as a protective veneer that let Yuan Zhen publish a really subversive story by just tacking on a conventional, respectable moral. He was playing with fire, and this was his way of controlling the blaze. But here's where the story gets really incredible. The author may have had the last word in his own book, but it was the audience that got the last word in history. Yeah, that protective veneer, it didn't fool anybody, not for a second. From the very beginning, readers and audiences connected with the character of Yingyīng. It was her passion, her tragedy. That's what stuck with people. The author's artistic creation was so powerful that it just completely overwhelmed his official tacked-on moral judgment. And you can actually watch this happen over the centuries. The story becomes super popular right away, adapted for singers and storytellers. But the biggest shift happens in the 13th century, when it's turned into a play that completely rewrites the ending. This evolution is just remarkable. In the original tale, Yīngyīng is condemned, but in the famous play version, she's transformed into this bold heroine, fighting for the right to choose who she loves. And from that point on, she basically becomes an icon of true love, finally getting the happy ending that the original story denied her. So this new version, The Romance of the Western Chamber, became one of the most famous and beloved works in all of Chinese literature. And what it did, effectively, was correct the original story. The audience's sympathy for the lovers was just so strong that later writers felt they had to give them the reunion and marriage that everyone felt they deserved. So, in the end, the author's attempt to control his own narrative failed spectacularly. The true legacy of his tale isn't the conformist moral he tacked on at the end. No, it's the unforgettable character he brought to life. A character so real and so powerful that she broke free of her own story and inspired generations to rewrite it in her favor.